So really, the other important thing that I think is that you need to understand is, so how do I care for these things in the field? What can I do to help my consumer understand these things as we move forward? Let me see if I can try to get this where it won't move again. Is that better?
Yep.
All right, so we're living in the world of COVID. There are a couple things that are not leather friendly. Hydrogen peroxide, bleach, and isopropyl alcohol. Go look at your hand sanitizer and see what the #1 agent is in it. Isopropyl alcohol. We have a mini testing lab at Leather Miracles where we test things and we bring them back. And so we took all 3 categories and we took hand sanitizer, wiped on them, and then we Finiflexed them. We ran them back through abrasion test, and anything with isopropyl alcohol will diminish the overall character of the hide, period. Nothing you can do about it. The alcohol will cut the polyurethane or the top coat that's applied on there. And when that happens, isopropyl alcohol in particular will dry out the natural body oils, and what you will have is that extended use of that piece of leather over time. First thing you'll notice is it's going to start to lighten up, and then it's going to dry up, and then it's going to crack. And that is the removal, the alcohol removing the natural body oils that are in it, but it's also of it breaking down the top coats that are applied to it. So most of the leathers that we use, and we think about Motion in particular, we're thinking about things that are family friendly, go into this category. They would be semi-allen and they would be finished leathers. So these leathers have some corrections that are done to the hides themselves. They have pigmentation that's used to develop color consistency. And then the other thing that they have is called a top coat. And a top coat is a polyurethane barrier that goes in between the stain or the pigment and the actual end user itself. If I have one of these leathers that are in my home, you don't need to do anything to this other than when you vacuum your house, put the brush on there and vacuum your furniture. I told you my daughter's messy. So when Madison sits down in there and she spills something in there, a damp cloth is all you really need to take care of either one of these categories. Allen, or semi-allen, or finished. Okay, so let's say that Madison spilled, I don't know, a soft drink in there and it's really sticky. I want to make sure that I get it up. Take a damp cloth, Ira liquid soap, Neutrogena, and just get a very, very light soap. That's it. Wipe the affected area. Also make sure that when you come back to that area, that you clean that cloth and you remove soap. When soap dries, it's going to leave a film. We don't want that on there. Stubborn stains, you spilled something on there, we're having some friends over and somebody dropped, food in there. Just a damp cloth really is all you need. Remember this, leather's already finished, it already went through the liming process, and there is nothing that you need to do to preserve it. Right? If I have something that I don't know how to clean it, the first thing you do is you go and you look at your leather description and you find out what type of leather it is. There are aftercare products that are made in the industry that are great, but make sure you know what you're buying and what you're putting on that product. You don't have to do anything to the leather to maintain it, nothing. But there are times when you do need to clean it, and you do need to make sure that you've got something. I spilled a cup of coffee and I want to make sure that that comes off. Ira liquid soap, Neutrogena soap, and water. That's it. The reason that I say those is because they are facial soaps, they're non-abrasive, and they're pH balanced. Think about soaps. If we use different types of products for our skin, some of the biggest issues that we have is that it starts to dry out our skin. Same thing happens here. We don't want to remove the natural body oils that are in this. So we want to use something that's pH balanced. Now, so let's say that I got a bomber's jacket in my house and I spilled something on there. So what do I do there? So let's take our vacuum cleaner again and let's make sure that there's no stubborn spills. What I would do is just take water, a damp cloth, and I would blot dry it onto that particular spill. this hide, remember, is open. There's no polyurethane, there's no top coat applied to it. The natural oils that are within these hides will break down stains and they'll take care of it. Now, it may happen in a week. It may take it 3 years. It really depends upon the oils that are in the hide itself. But if I were to spill something on a pure aniline, I would blot dry it with water only and let it go. Remember your bomber's jacket and how it shades and fades with use? What will happen is that watermark will dissipate, and it may be lighter, it may be darker, but the body oils here will take care of it. Constant application is something that's completely different, but if it's a spill or a stain that goes on there. Now, one of the biggest things that we have to deal with in our industry is this. Let's think about those great recliners that La-Z-Boy sells, and people are using those daily. Well, that means that Mr. Jones comes in every night and he sits in his chair. That means that Mrs. Adams comes in and she's got her spot when she has her glass of wine. Twice a year, Ivor liquid soap, Neutrogena, and wipe those off. Leather's #1 enemy is body oil. Men and women have different pH levels, and men, as a general rule, have a higher pH than women. Let me give you a silly analogy, but hopefully it will bring it into context. I have on a t-shirt up underneath, or I have on a shirt. Eventually my t-shirts will become discolored. You'll see certain stains on there. Well, that comes from body oils. But here's what's really odd about that is that I might wear a dress shirt more than one day, but as a general rule, it goes to the cleaners, or my t-shirts are washed after each use and they still stain. So that piece of furniture that sits in your house that you use every day that you don't think you don't have to clean, think about what happens to that. And that's why you see some of the reactions that you do. So if people would, as often as they dust, simply take a damp cloth and wipe it off, they will eliminate any issues. If they have a stubborn still, we recommend, the 2 cleansers that I used earlier, Ivor liquid soap or Neutrogena. Woolite's another one, there's 3. If you do that, you never have to do anything else to maintain your product. I've got this, and I will be more than glad to share this with you. I think your teams have this. There is, at the end of this, I kind of put together just a glossary. So those are the words that we used as we kind of walked and talked today. And if you ever have any questions or anything else, I would be more than glad to help with that. We are grateful for the relationship that we have with La-Z-Boy. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I hope that some of the things that we talked about, you'll find beneficial as you're working with your retailers and your consumers. But we're here as a partner. If you have questions, don't hesitate. Please let us know what they are. I think that's it.
Good job.
Now, questions. Feel free to ask.
Can you email us a PowerPoint?
Yeah, we'll get it posted. We'll get it posted on communications.
You've got it right.
Yep.
Yes.
Is there a difference or a benefit or negative to using a pig skin versus a steer hide or a cow hide?
Size.
That's the only.
Yeah. All right. So when you're building a sofa, say for instance, your standard sofa takes about 210 square feet usable. Cow hides, based on color variations and yield, you're probably pulling 5 hides. So think about what you've got there from a pigskin standpoint. The other part is that the epidermis is basically the same. It's very similar, but it really more than anything else is the size. Yes, sir.
Every once in a while, we have a customer that sends us pictures of the hide, the finishes, starting off the head area, the hand areas. That's body oils on the surface.
Yeah. To your point, so here's where you're going to notice it. You're going to notice it on the headrest. You're going to notice it where the arms touch, and then you're probably going to notice it on the footrest or on the seat border as it goes down, and that is where there is skin-on-skin contact. And that is the body oils, and that is what I said earlier, a constant application. So what happens is what you're seeing there is that the body oils are building up on those areas, and they've never been removed. And when you start to see it discolored, I hate to tell you this, but there's nothing you can do about it at that point. Because what's happened then, especially if it's in a leather here, These have top coats, and it's a polyurethane-based product that's used on the top as a seal coat, you know, almost. That's been broken. And what you're seeing, the discoloration is being caused by the body oils as they permeate in there, and it's starting to react with the fat liquors and the natural body oils of the hide itself. So the next step you're going to see is that it's going to become discolored, and then the final step is it's going to dry and crack like a leaf does in the fall.
So as a follow-up, how would you coach a customer to clean, how often would they need to clean the body oils? And
Okay, so as often as you dust your furniture, if you'll just take that brush, you're removing the dust, you know, the different particles that come in there. If they would, twice a year, take a damp cloth and wipe it off. I mean, if they really want to be good, once a quarter, just take it and wipe it off. These leathers are built, I shared with you the study, you know, the longevity of leather versus the other product. It is built to last, and is built to be basically maintenance free. But if you don't remove that constant application of body oils, you're asking for trouble. You will get trouble. So a couple times a year, make sure you wipe those.
And distilled water versus tap water?
Yeah, well, distilled water is the best, but for most of us, I mean, the water's fine if you use it outside of that. The concern with using straight tap water is the amount of chlorine that's been applied to it. So obviously, distilled water is best. We generally, Liquid soap or Neutrogena work very well. If you take distilled water and you do one part, if you do 95% water and just, you know, 5% woolite, you're fine. All you're doing there, you guys seen the commercial where Liquid soap shows the sink and they drop the thing in there and the oil dissipates? Same thing. Same concept here is we want to get that oil off of the hide. We want to get it off of the furniture itself, because if it's allowed to sit there and permeate, is when it does its damage.
One of the things too, a lot of hair products have alcohol in them. And so you remember what Shannon said about alcohol just eating away at that leather. So, you know, you can recommend, you know, stay away from products with alcohol in them for your hair products, you know, and things like that. And that could be one of the issues, because that's not a body oil that you're going to be able to wash away. That's going to be
No, hair care products are, I'm glad you mentioned that, are not good. The worst thing is to sell furniture to your family and they use hair care products when they call you back. That makes Thanksgiving, Christmas a little tough.
Forget the hair products, just selling the family, period.
My sister-in-law still does not understand what happened to her recliner.